Oh, hey, and welcome to another episode of First Canada Live. We are back. It's our little show where we talk about robots and everything going on in the First Canada community. Before we begin, as Canadians, it is important to recognize the land of which we are a part. As we gather for this meeting, physically dispersed and virtually constructed, let us take a moment to reflect on the meaning of place, and in doing so, recognize the various traditional lands on which we celebrate today. We acknowledge the elders and youth, past, present, and emerging, of all the land on which we work and live. We honor the ancestral spirits with gratitude and respect. We acknowledge this land out of respect for the indigenous nations who have cared for Turtle Island, also called North America. The indigenous people have been gifted the role of caretakers of this land before the arrival of settler peoples until today. But most importantly, we remember the history of these lands and people that have been tainted by poor treatment and a lack of friendship with the First Nations who called Canada home before it was given this name. This history is something that everyone is affected by. We are all treaty people in Canada. We all have a shared history to reflect on, and each of us is affected by this history in different ways. Our past defines our present, but if we move forward as friends and allies, it does not define our future. All right, folks, like I said, I'm your host, Karthik Kanagis of Apathy, or maybe I didn't say it. Well, I'm saying it now. That's who I am. And we have some great co-hosts today from the First Canada Youth Council. We have Shivan, Team 1360 Orbit Robotics from Oakville, Ontario, and Brandon from Team 4917, Sir Lancerbot from Elmira. How's it going, boys?
Pretty good.
It's
How are you,
going
Karthik?
well.
You know what, guys? I am so pumped. I'm so excited. I'm still on the high from Newmarket and what a great event it was, and I just couldn't be more pumped for the season. How are you feeling, Shivan?
I'm feeling really confident about this season. I think my team, I'm really looking forward to our first competition next week and
You're
really
competing this
excited.
weekend at Niagara, right?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
that's
yeah.
gonna be a good one. That's gonna be a good one. And Brandon, what about you? You don't compete for a couple weeks,
No,
right?
our first one is at Durham, so week
Okay.
3.
I'm at that one as well, so that's gonna be yeah, we got a lot of fun coming up. But you know what? We got a lot of Rescape to talk about. So that's what we're talking about in tonight's show. We are doing a recap of the Newmarket event. So we're going to talk about everything that happened there and so much more, and just kind of how Rescape is playing. It's we got our first impressions of the game, and so it's exciting times. We got Emily Forrester in chat, First Canada MC, who says Niagara is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of good stuff going on this weekend in Niagara. Centennial College as well. It's going to be really good. Hey, folks, if you are watching throughout the show and you have any questions, please post them in chat and we'll try and answer them live on air. And remember, folks, we're here to have some fun and celebrate excellence in our community. And you know what? We had an event with, I think it was 28 or 29 teams this past weekend in Newmarket, and each one of them accomplished something pretty amazing by getting to that competition. And so we're here to celebrate all the great things that our teams have done. Uh, it's time to talk a little bit about the Youth Council Wellness Moment. And so, Brandon and Shivan, I think you both have things you want to talk about. So, Shivan, maybe you want to go first.
Yeah, one thing I always love to do for wellness is a little bit of meditation. I have the Calm app on my phone and every day just before school, lots of stress, 10 minutes, just put my headphones in and do a quick little meditation.
And
Brandon?
Shivan, so how long ago did you start doing that?
I started in grade 11. That's when school really
Yeah.
picked up, feeling the stress, all the
A-
the commitment to robotics. So.
And have you noticed has it made a difference for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a big improvement and helps my mindset get ready for the day.
I love it. I love it. That's great to hear. Okay, Brandon, what about you?
I personally love reading. Reading is something that I love to do, whether it's before bed or even just throughout the day if it's on a weekend or in the summer. It's a great way for me to kind of relax. Right now, I'm reading a book called Blink, by Malcolm Gladwell. It's on decision making, and it's not usually, I usually stick to fiction, but I kind of went out of my comfort zone for this one. But I think it's an enjoyable book.
Gladwell's great. I've read a lot of his stuff over the years. He's fascinating, and I think it's also been really neat to see how his views have evolved over time. And oh yeah, he'll make you think. He's good in that way for sure.
For sure. He actually graduated from my school.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I didn't know he was from Elmira. Oh, there you go. Oh, we got to get him to an FRC event. We got to get him to, he's got to see the Sir Lancerbot in action.
Try our best.
All right, all right. That's very, very cool. All right, thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Shivan. I have not tried meditation, but I think I want to give it a swing at some point because it seems to be good. And man, I love reading. Like pre-show, I was just like going off all my favorite books to Brandon and everything. We could do a whole First Canada Live about books, if we wanted to. I think there's no better organization in our society than the public library system. I just love, like, you just get books for free. You just get books for free. You can borrow them. Someone else gets to use them. There's no waste. It's great. I love books. So. All right, folks. Some news updates. Just a reminder to teams. If you every year in the Kid of Parts, your team gets a whole bunch of vouchers for a whole bunch of free stuff. Don't forget to claim the things that there. You can get free springs. You might have vouchers for Andy Mark or for Rev. Take a look to see what you have and make sure you use them before they expire. I think they all expire typically end of April, so make sure you're doing that. Folks, we still have some First Canada scholarships that are open for application. The Skilled Trade Scholarship and the Indigenous Scholarship are open. So whether you're eligible or you know someone who might be eligible, spread the word and get people to apply. And you can find details on all the scholarships at firstroboticcanada.org/scholarships, which is going into chat. In terms of our show schedule, we're here right now through competition every Tuesday, recapping events. So we're going to take 1 week off because that Tuesday would happen like right during the Humber event. We don't want to be doing a show in the middle of an event, but that means the week after we'll be recapping 4 events on one show. That's going to be jam-packed. We're going to be doing Durham, Humber, Waterloo, North Bay. So like, Brandon, that'll be 2 of your team's events on one show.
It will be.
Yeah. Shivan, where's 1360 second event this year? Is it McMaster?
Waterloo.
Waterloo. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good one. It will be water.
Mhm.
Lou.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. You're ready? Brandon, did you apply to Waterloo?
I did apply to Waterloo.
Shivan, did you apply?
I also applied to Waterloo.
But see, Brandon did the chant right away and you didn't, man. That's a strike. Like, what if they're watching, man? What if they're watching? You got to get your Lulu in
I
there.
don't know.
Here, let me try the other version with you. See if you two can figure it out.
Oh no.
H2O, LO2.
Oh,
All right. Yeah.
that makes sense.
There you go. Okay. See, if you two choose to go there or whatever, and that comes up in Frosh Week, you could be like, yeah, LO2, and you'll know. Sorry, I don't mean to turn this into a Waterloo podcast here. All right. Hey, but speaking about the First Canada community, if your team has any questions about anything you're trying to figure out how to troubleshoot, why your LEDs aren't turning on or why you're tripping breakers, how about you join the Ontario Team Slack, where there's hundreds of people, like literally hundreds of mentors and students in there who are there to give advice and chat about robots. So link is going into chat. And then finally, folks, have either of you heard of the First Canada Bronze Safety Badge?
I have. I've done it.
You've done it? You have the
I've done
badge
it as
yet?
well.
I do have the badge.
Okay, all right. You got the badge already, but tell your friends if you want to get the badge. Julia's putting the link into chat right now where you can take the quiz. And if you pass that quiz, you can take the screenshot or the proof of you passing that quiz to the First Canada swag booth at any district event this season, and you'll get your badge. So that's always cool. And you'll get to hang out with Swaggy P, Paul Keenan. It's like, can't go wrong with that. So. All right, folks, we're going to be back talking about Reefscape in just a couple moments. But before we do that, let's take a look at a word from one of our sponsors, 3M.
So First Robotics Competition is the epitome of the robotics competitions here in Canada. It's an opportunity for high school students to get involved in the engineering design of an entire robotic system.
People think robotics is all about building the robot, right? But building the robot is only half the challenge. Building the robot is actually a vehicle for you to build your own self.
For our Canadian manufacturers to stay competitive, there's a lot of automation and robotics that have to go into our manufacturing facilities. So the skills that the kids are learning in this competition hit that mark spot on.
There's definitely the technical ones. I've learned how to do CAD design. I've learned how to work machines. But one of the really, really big ones that I really like is and I think it's really important in this world, is I've learned how to work with a team. Without being able to work as a team going into industry, it's not going to work out.
There are absolutely skills that the students are using today that are things that we use in professional careers that have to do with STEM. They are learning how to communicate, they are learning how to collaborate, they're learning how to think outside the box so that they're not limiting themselves to one thing. They're getting to do coding, marketing, design, engineering, science, the whole 9 yards all together.
It really teaches you all these different skills that you wouldn't think that you would know. It teaches you, how to work with other people, how to do soft skills, communication, teamwork, leadership, all that kind of stuff.
Some of our alumni have gone on to receive excellent scholarships at top-tier universities, and because of that, they've started getting known well by top-tier companies, which allows our brand to carry on as they work for large technological companies in the programming sector, in the automation sector. It's really interesting to see where we end up.
All right, thank you to 3M for all their support of First Canada and our First Canada teams. Okay, folks, we are back, and now we're talking Reefscape. So we saw it in person, we saw it on webcast this weekend. Brandon, Shivan, I'd love to know. Maybe start with Brandon first. What impressed you most this weekend about Reefscape?
That's a really hard question. I think it really comes down to the speed. When we were going through the season, we were like, how fast will people actually be when placing the coral? Because that's something that we focused on. So we were trying to gauge where it was going to be at. In some teams this weekend, we're just smacking down the coral on L4, zooming right back to the pickup station, and they were placing so many throughout the entire match.
What about you, Shivan?
Something that impressed me the most, honestly, I think considering it's a week one event and the high scores that were happening, I know the finals had 180, and compared to week one events of last year, where averaging the finals were about 120, it's crazy how high these scores are.
I was definitely impressed with the top teams at Newmarket, how far out of the gate they came. And I think a little bit blown away, and I'm going to show this in some of the stats coming up, but 49-46, the Alpha Dogs, they're fifth in the world right now in EPA. That's that's just unprecedented for the Alpha Dogs, and for them to come out that high. I watched the first day of events and I was like, okay, Alpha Dogs and the Waffles and 5409 and 1241 are all really good. But then I started looking at the stats from the other events and I was like, oh, they're really good in comparison, 'cause sometimes you don't really realize. But yeah, and Brandon, to your point, there's a misnomer in first. A lot of people believe that cycle time, i.e. the amount of time it takes to go from from loading to scoring, is determined by how fast your robot drives. But drive speed is actually has the least amount of determination in cycle time. It is about how long you take to intake the object and how long you take to release the object. And a team like the Alpha Dogs, we're going to talk about all show long, so just get ready, folks. This is going to be like an Alpha Dogs podcast, basically. They were so quick to get coral from the human player, and they had that active funnel, which just took it straight to their manipulator. And then when they got to the reef, boom, on. Just boom, on. And it was no wasted time. But especially in the loading station, they were so good there. And when we watch the video, you'll see it. But they can load on three sides of the robot. So when the defenders were there, it didn't matter if they came in at an angle or whatever. Toss it in and go, toss it in and go. And so they really minimized the amount of time spent at the loading station, and that's why their cycles were so fast. So I thought that was super impressive. What about surprises? Anything surprised the two of you?
I think one big thing was how the algae was manipulated. I think it became more of an obstacle on the field rather than a game piece almost. You would see when they would get pushed off the reef, they would either go to the side for the most part, because not a lot of robots were actually scoring it, but they would be pushed off to the side, and sometimes they would get in the way of trying to do some high-speed cycle time and stuff.
Yeah. Shivan.
Yeah, no, very similar to what he was going to say. It's the amount of teams that most of the teams are all focusing on coral. So then when you get to the algae, it's just all over the field. And yeah, like what Brandon said, it just becomes a hindrance, honestly. It's not a lot of focus on the algae. Yeah.
So my surprise was also about algae. but it was a little bit different, or maybe similar. I was stunned at how few teams were scoring algae. Absolutely stunned. So I think co-op happened once at Newmarket, maybe twice. So like it just because people weren't putting the things in the processor, and not because they just didn't want to, just teams didn't really have that ability. And in the barge, so you had Team 7200, whose algae was working great, and they were doing a fabulous job at that. And 1241 was splicing in some algae cycles. But like in the finals, there was you'll see when we watch the video. There was a neat algae strategy I'll talk about when we watch the video, but no one was doing it. And I don't think that's going to be indicative of the season. I think it's Ontario teams making some smart decisions week one, being like, we can't do everything, so we're going to focus on something small. But also, the other thing that surprised, I guess it didn't surprise me, but it's still weird to see. This game is really hard. As much as we can talk about the Alpha Dogs and the Chargers and the Waffles and Theory 6 and Hoya Robotics, just about how good they all were, the average team was doing about one, or the median team, rather, not average, because the average got blown away by those 4 or 5 top teams. But the median team was doing like 1 or 2 coral a match. That's hard. And not doing algae, and pretty much all of them not doing deep climbs. So this game is hard. There's a lot to it. And I think the teams who are going to be rewarded are the teams who focused on less things and just decided to do them really, really well, and Alpha Dogs being a prime example of that. So this was week one. Brandon, you're competing in week 3. Shivan, you're competing in week 2. How do you think this game's going to evolve over the next few weeks?
One thing I think is more deep climbs. Well, I hope to see them. It's very difficult to do, and I'm really interested in seeing how robots will adapt to, because I know lots of teams don't focus on it in week 1, but in their next or later weeks, I hope to see some deep climbs. I think it's really interesting how it works and how some teams have made it fit within their robot.
Brandon?
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how defense goes over the course of the season, just because I know we didn't see too much in the week 1. We saw, I know with the restrictions this year, it's a bit harder to do defense, but I'm interested to see how that'll progress and what strategies people will find, because there are some when you have no restrictions around defending around the pickup stations.
The defense one's going to fascinate me. I think so we saw 2 matches, no, one match with 35 coral and one match with 36 coral by the number 1 alliance. Like that's a full reef except for L1. As the season goes on, that reef is going to get fuller and fuller. And then so like what's going to differentiate between those 2 alliances? And obviously, so Shivan said we're going to see more deep climbs. I think we definitely will. I think we'll see teams adding deep climbs later in the season if they don't have them right now, because that's going to be a tiebreaker. And obviously algae will be a tiebreaker. But I think defense is going to be, you just can't just if you don't defend, and we should keep a ticker on how many times we talk about the Alpha Dogs and the Chargers. If you don't defend them, they're just going to score a million pieces, or, not a million, but like 16, 18, 20 pieces. And you have to slow them down somehow. You just have to. But defense is hard. It's all the way on the other side of the field. There are 6 cages that you're looking through to try and see what's going on. There's a reef in your way. Are either of you drivers for your team? Or drive coaches?
No.
Okay. When you're behind the glass, it is hard to see, and to try and do that down there, that is a real challenge. And so like, usually it was like the 3rd robot on these alliances who were going to play defense, so teams who struggled a little bit at the competition. But I saw something interesting. 4976, Revolt Robotics, one of our traditionally top teams in Ontario. They had a playoff match where something went wrong with, I think, their elevator or their intake. So they pivoted to defense. Oh, look out. The defender you should all be worried about is a good offensive robot, because they know how to drive their robots. That's something, famously in 2006. I don't know, you're going to be like, oh, I think we weren't even alive in 2006. Yeah, I get it. I'm old. 1114 picked 67 as their 3rd bot. Hot, one of the best teams in the world. They were the defending world champions, but they ended up being their 3rd bot at Michigan because things weren't working right. And we're like, Hot, we want you to play defense. And they're like, okay. And they just annihilated people because it was just a good offensive robot being played for defense. And so I think we get to the provincial championships when we have so many great teams and we're going to have so many people scoring Coral. We're going to see some of those offense spots playing defense, and they'll slow people down. So the defense is definitely coming. And so then where does the advantage go? Teams like the Alpha Dogs with their, ability to load in multiple ways. And one thing we didn't see at Newmarket, we didn't see anyone with a Coral ground intake, or at least an effective one. I know there are some in the wild in this province. I think people can make their predictions just based on history of some teams of who's probably going to be doing that. So that could be a way to counter defense, or maybe defense will be able to defend that really well. I don't know, but that's an interesting one for a change. Any specific strategies that you saw that caught your attention?
I can go first. I think
Yeah.
going into it, I really anticipated a lot more algae play, like use. Like I thought, it's week one. I anticipated at least some teams would do algae, but like the lack of like it was barely used. And then also, like you mentioned, the lack of ground intake. I knew my team was trying to make it work. We didn't end up going with it, but I thought at least a couple teams or more than what there is would have ground intakes, but no, it's pretty much all from the source.
Yeah, like I think it always comes back to algae too, because something that I noticed is teams aren't really trying to remove the algae until they absolutely need to. They're trying to do all the L4s when they can, and then when they have to remove the algae, they'll take it off. But until that point, like we as a team we're talking about if robots will come and just knock all the algae out. But it doesn't seem like people are doing that. They're just knocking it out when they have to, placing and keep moving.
Well, it's because algae, like they should be called landmines. They are dangerous back there. The amount of teams that got and like not really, really good teams stuck on algae. It's like absolutely like there were two things that absolutely derail teams in matches. One, getting stuck on algae. Two, having coral fall into your robot. And we saw that happen over and over again. So yeah, I get why if especially if you can't do anything with the algae, leave it in the reef until you have to take it out or whatever. And so like I thought 1241 was an example of someone who's doing this is what I think is going to be happening more in the season. When they take the algae out, they were putting it in the barge, like going on. Yeah, someone says sea binds. I guess that's a good one too. It's yeah, that algae, what we saw at Newmarket is not indicative, I think, of what we're going to see for algae all the way. We'll see it. Now I'm going to save it for the video. I saw a neat algae strategy at the Hoya Robotics and the Waffles, and Grizzly Gear is pulled off. So I want to see that one. Normally at this time, we talk about a moment of gracious professionalism that you saw, but neither of you were at events, but via webcast or your group chats or whatever Discords, you hear about any gracious professionalism at events this weekend?
I didn't hear about any at this weekend specifically. I know this is traveling, sorry, specifically at Newmarket. This is traveling to the West Coast.
Yeah,
But
yeah, tell us.
at Campac, I saw some teams. They were I heard about some great gracious professionalism, just about teams getting along on the field and stuff, and with them changing into Vancouver this year rather than being on Victoria Island, I think it was a little bit different for everyone. So dealing with that change from what I heard sounded like they got through, but it was different.
Yeah. I mean, there was just so much going on in Newmarket. And so we unveiled them at FTC the week before, but the new First Canada Gracious Professionalism pins. So volunteers and members of the Youth Council are being given pins that they can then, when they see Gracious Professionalism, hand out to, and each team got one as well, to hand out to someone to recognize Gracious Professionalism. Because of that, I saw some really cool things like, just teams handling adversity. I think maybe one of the neatest interactions I saw was the head referee Praneet had a team in the question box, Newbotics 8349, and Nubotics was pretty upset about a call, and so they went to the question box and they asked a question or whatever. But they were like really just, you know, how some teams come to the question box that are angry and kind of yelling. They were super respectful or whatever. And Praneeth, the head ref, was just like, "Hey, you're just doing thanks for being graciously professional and expressing your viewpoints in a calm way. And I think we agree to disagree, but thanks for being," and gave him a pin. And I was like, yeah, that's super cool because it's important to, guess what? We in our lives will all have reasons to be upset, and there will be times where we think we've been victims of injustice, and sometimes it'll be true and sometimes it might not be, and sometimes it might just be a difference of opinion, but we got to learn how to sort through those things, and that's part of being a gracious professional as well. And so it was cool to see a team handle that the right way, because everyone always focuses on, oh, did you see that team just like yelling at the ref, or did you see that, you know, ref yelling at the team? Like, no, 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 no. That's not what we want to focus on. Let's focus on the 99 good things that happen instead of the one bad thing out of 100, right? All right, folks. Well, this is a good discussion. We're going to keep talking about Reefscape because we're going to be back taking a look at a playoff match from Newmarket. But before we do that, let's take a look at a word from one of our sponsors, TD SYNNEX.
TD SYNNEX connects and empowers a vibrant, expansive ecosystem of innovative companies that create solutions for increasingly complex business challenges. We help more than 150,000 customers maximize the value of IT investments, achieve business outcomes, and unlock growth opportunities. By simplifying complexity for our vendors and customers, allowing new technologies to be effortlessly adopted. With 22,000 of the IT industry's best and brightest, we passionately deliver compelling technology that enhances the way we live. As the pace of the IT marketplace continues to accelerate, we will remain at the center, orchestrating solutions, delivering vital, high-growth technologies, and aiming to sustain the world around us. With 50 years of success at our backs, we continue to evolve and improve the way we support our partners. We believe anyone can achieve great outcomes with technology. And
All right, we're back. Thank you, TD SYNNEX. Okay, so now it's time to talk about the Newmarket event in specific. I mean, like, we've already been talking about it, but hey, we got a question in chat first off that I want to take from Alt Pseudo. Will co-op be worth it this year? Obviously, co-op is not happening super often anywhere, but I think it's at the point right now where teams are, so it's a multitude of factors. Like at Newmarket specifically, like no one could really do algae, so that was really part of the problem. So that's one thing. Number two, 20 cycles is a lot, even though I'm coming back to this co-op question. I'm coming back to it because I'm going to cover it right now. Let's take a look at our stats. Let's go to the stats slide to bring up here. And just wait, we wait for the stats slide to come up. Here we go. And let me get my pencil. Do I have my pencil? I don't have my pencil. I have my pencil. Okay, just waiting for the slide to come up. All right, here we go. So folks, here are the alpha dogs, and there's kind of a giant gap. So this is EPA, so teleop on the x-axis, on the y-axis is auto and endgame. 4946 is far away from everyone. In fact, they are what I would call, what I've coined on the show, they're in the 2056 zone right now. They are really, really good. The Chargers are also kind of really far off of everyone. They just look at the teleop. The gap in teleop. This is the gap in teleop. This is big. These two teams were just really, really, really good. So, oh, I guess, oh, shoot, my video is blocking where 4946 is. I'm sorry, folks. I didn't do my, normally I make the slide a little bit so I have a carve out. Thank you, Alt Pseudo. So anyways, 4946 is really far out and ahead. But then if we just kind of look at this whole section here, this is the top 2 teams on the first, second, and third place alliances. And then everyone else is down here. So there's a big gap between great and average. So let's take a look at our second slide. If we can take a look at the second slide, folks. Sorry, guys. Yeah, 49.46 was way off in the corner, in the top right corner. I'll do better next time. This is total coral count component OPR. So this is like how much coral were teams scoring. And we see, like, I'll get my pencil back, 15, 14, 12, 10, 9, but then it drops to 6. But when we get down to the middle of the pack here, 2.5. So like put 3 of those together, you're getting like 7.5 or 8 coral. That's not even close to the 15 required to do the ranking point with co-op. So 15 to 20 doesn't matter if you're these teams together. And for a team up here who's already doing 15 on their own, it doesn't matter to them either, because they presumably have partners that get them to where they need to be. So co-op right now with the distribution isn't super worth it. Will it be worth it at some point? I think so. But in terms of progress to the ranking point, it just didn't make a lot of sense at Newmarket, especially with how teams were struggling to score algae. Now, it's still a tiebreaker, but tiebreakers have less importance this year. Brandon Shiven, do you know why tiebreakers have less importance?
No, not off the top of my head. Would you like to tell us, Karthik?
I would. It's because there's 6 ranking points per match. And because of
Oh,
that, there's going to be a bigger spread of possible ranking scores, through 12 matches or whatever. It can go, instead of going from 0 to 48, it goes from 0 to 72, meaning there's going to be fewer ties. And so, yeah, I don't think co-op is worth it right now. There will be some teams who are in the zone where it's like, yeah, their alliance can get to 15, but not to 20. Then it's going to be worth it. That is going to be super worth it. But I wonder also if by the end of the season, we're having the same conversation of being like, oh, every alliance can get to 20, no problem. That being said, I'll throw a monkey wrench in here as to why co-op might be important to some teams. Because it's not truly 20 coral. It is 20 coral, but it's 5 on each level. So if you have a team that can't score on level 4, or maybe more realistically, you have a team that can't score on level 1, because level 1 seems to be the challenge for people. Have you two noticed that with your teams?
yeah, for sure. With our team, like, ours is fully mechanical. So yeah, we can't even score on level 1.
With our team, we originally couldn't score with our claw because it was going to be passive. So then we had to use like air to make it so that it's not passive anymore, so that we can score level 1. So
Yeah.
we had to design around it after.
Yeah, someone in chat's like 1678 got number 1 seed by tiebreaker. Great. Thank you. Yes, understood. But like there's going to be fewer ties. Not saying that there won't be any ties, there will be fewer ones. And so that's why it loses some degree of importance. But with level 1 being so different than level 2, 3, and 4, because the coral goes in a completely different orientation, it's not going to be surprising if there's some teams that struggle with. We saw teams struggle hard with it in Newmarket. And so those teams, co-op becomes a lot more valuable for, because removing 5 L1 cycles for 2 algae in the processor cycles. Or Brandon, I know you were watching CanPack. 359 was using the strategy of doing 2 in their processor and 2 in their opponent's processor, because they were in the zone where co-op really mattered to them. And so
And I think
for some it'll matter, some it won't.
I think like that kind of strategy might be similar to last year's, because I know there were a few teams that weren't able to score in the AMP last year. So there were some teams that were just cycling over and scoring 2 just so that they could get that co-op, or
Yep.
1, I guess, last year.
Yeah, no, it totally can be a thing, and so co-op is interesting in this game, to say the least. But yeah, so folks, I also want for teams out there who watched Newmarket and watched the Alpha Dogs and the Chargers and the Waffles and 1241 and Hoya just absolutely killing it out there. And you're like, oh my goodness, we're no good. We're never going to be that good or whatever. Remember, most teams were averaging like 1 or 2 coral. You're not alone, and you're going to get better. Everyone gets better as you play this game more. So many of our teams don't even have access to a practice field. They haven't practiced in real conditions. You just get better by playing more matches. And so don't fret. Not everyone's an alpha dog right now. Everyone wishes they were an alpha dog. The alpha dogs are so freaking cool. And they had their fans were so much fun at Newmarket. Oh my goodness. I'm such a big fan. All right, folks. Thanks for the stats slide. We can take that down. But I say it's time we watch the match video. You ready? Let's take a look. So we're going to take a look at round 4, match 11. And match 11 is my favorite playoff match always because it's the upper bracket final. Winner goes to the final. We often see a rematch, but that's when we really get to see like 2 top alliances face off. And boy, did we have that with alliance number 1, team 4946, the Alpha Dogs, 5409 Chargers, and 10015 Bubbles, the rookie team. Pay attention to their defense. Up against team 4152 Hoya Robotics, who was fabulous. 4476, fresh off a trip to Einstein, their first event since then, the Waffles, and 9580, the Grizzly Gears. So let's take a look. And our producer, Heather, please be ready to pause every so often in case I call for it. But let's take a look and let's start this match. Drivers behind the line in 3, 2, 1, go. I jumped the gun. They're going. They're getting ready. And so off in autonomous mode, and we're going to watch the Red Alliance focus on this as we have matching 3-piece autos coming out. And just like, look how in sync they are. So can we pause right here for a sec? Okay, we're at the end of auto right here. We got 4 for blue. We got 6 for red. One thing I struggled with all weekend long was watching both sides of the field. Did either of you notice that?
Yeah, because I agree with you. It feels like there's just 2 separate games going on. So to see both sides try and go through.
And
And
there was
also,
just
like, everything moves so fast. You look over one side, on the other, something else completely is happening.
there was so much going on right now, and it was just like, how do you handle it? Like, it's just there's so much. So I full disclosure, the first time I watched this match in real time, I was closer to the Red Alliance side and I saw everything there, but I've rewatched the video about like 15 times, but I was like, whoa, wow, like the Blue Alliance was doing a lot. Like, put it this way, the Blue Alliance would have won most events this weekend, but they just happened to be run up against a juggernaut in Alliance number 1 with 4946, 5409, and 10015. So let's keep it going. All right, we're back. And right away we see the Grizzly Gears coming out to play some defense over on the blue on the red side. And you see they are slowing 5409. The Chargers down. The Chargers are not hitting their full potential, and then they flip to the other loading station. So that's what we're seeing on one side. Over on the other side, Bubbles is just a defensive menace, just running around trying to muck things up. Can we pause here for a second? So here's my word of advice for defenders. Pick a loading station and stick to it. I just think it is hard to chase robots back there. And I think even if it feels like you're not doing anything, just by forcing the 2 robots to go to the same loading station over on the other side can really slow things down. And I mean, the best defense is going to be someone who can hit them at the loading station and then chase them a little bit coming out and then get back to the loading station. But it is a lot easier to play defense by sitting than it is by chasing. And I saw a lot of teams trying to chase a team around, and I don't know, it's hard to play chase defense with Swerve Drive. Here's a fun fact. Guess how many Swerve Drives there were at this event of 29 teams?
I would guess probably 26 from what you're saying, from how you're saying it.
Shivan?
Like, yeah, 27 or 28, something ridiculous.
27 Swerve Drives. The future is now,
Wow.
man. Like it's just like a different world. And I don't think we'll continue to see rates that are high in Ontario. I think that the Newmarket event was just really, really strong. I think we'll see it definitely. I think we'll be more like in the high 70s, low 80s at Centennial, and then I don't know about Niagara. Niagara might be like 120% swerve that event, so on its own level. But it was interesting. But with swerve, now it is hard to defend a swerve bond, but swerve defenders can be really, really powerful. And like to stay in that one station and just kind of go side to side to block access could be dangerous. Okay, let's jump back into it. And like the Alpha Dogs cycling is just they're so quick when they get into the station and out, like right there, like so they're in at 135
I think that like
or
that arm
131.
that arm's deadly when they come in and they hit off, and then they hit the algae as well when they're swinging down. It just makes for like such a clean cycle.
Yeah, they're hitting like a bunch of 6-second cycles. Okay, now here's the strategy I want to talk about right now. Have you noticed how much algae there is on the red side of the field? The
Yeah,
Blue
there's
Alliance is every time the Blue Alliance does something with algae, they're trying to send it down to the red side of the field. There's no way that's an accident. I haven't talked to anyone, but there's no way that's an accident. See, bump that algae. The Waffles just did it. I think this is a strategy to send all the algae down to the other field to create clutter. Unfortunately, the Grizzly Gears just got stuck on one of the algae. The defender got stuck. And so now everything just opens up.
I think what the important strategy to do though, if that happens, is to just try and funnel it like they've done right in between the two coral stations, because ideally you don't need to go in between it. If one robot is going to one, the other is going to the other, and then you have a defender, you can just kind of come to your side of the reef. So that's in the ideal situation.
Can we pause right here? Sorry, Brandon. Can we pause right here? The reef is full, by the way. The levels 2, 3, and 4 are full. It's not truly full. There's still room for 24 L1 coral, but the levels 2, 3, and 4 are like completely full. And over on the blue side, it's also close to full. Like the Blue Alliance, 4152, 4476, and 9580 put on a show here. It's just overwhelmed because Alliance 1 was just so powerful. And the Blue Alliance ran some good strategy. They sent a defender out there. They tried something with sending algae down the field. You got to try something. You're not just going to beat an overpowered Alliance with hopes and prayers. Like you actually need to do something. And they did, but it's just like, it's hard to keep up. It's hard to keep up. So let's just finish the last. So I want in the last 15 seconds, watch the blue processor as the Waffles are going to come in to try and score an algae in the processor at the very end. They got it. And here comes Bubbles just slamming into him at the end with the block. That's a rookie team there with textbook defense. They recognized where they were going, and there's our score for the match, 187 to 138. Congratulations to both alliances there. And we can pause right here. Just take a look at the score. 156 coral points. But see the algae score, folks?
0 algae. Oh my.
Yeah.
So, but Shivan, you were talking about how amazed you were at these scores like 187.
Yeah.
That's without algae.
Yeah, I know. Without algae, like we can easily get like 200, 220. Like
Yeah, I think the world high score is like 221, 222. I think the Robonauts, not Robonauts. Oh my goodness. I'm going to get in trouble for that one. The Robo Wranglers and the 3005 hit that in Texas, and they scored like 13 algae, I believe, in that match, the way they did it. So like that's a huge number to be putting in the barge. And then Orbit was in like the 210s and constantly in Israel, like defending world champions. They are just fantastic and this next level team. So yeah, like 187 without penalties, 179, but without algae. This was a great match. Other things you noticed in that match, folks? We can take the screen share down now, folks.
I think the the algae thing that you were saying is it's going, I think, to be a very prominent strategy just because of how the algae has seemed to be. Like you can see multiple teams getting stuck throughout the entire event on the algae. So to try and force the algae over to one side, to use it almost as a hindrance, as Shivan said earlier, is like it's just a very good strategy to go with,
Yeah.
especially when you're going against these teams that are cycling at such high speeds.
Hey,
I think, yeah, oh, sorry, yeah. I think that
No, no,
brings up a really good point because you can see the alpha dogs, they're only taking the algae out when they need to, but would it be the strategy to take them out immediately, put them all to one side, and then have a free barge, or not barge, free reef?
I think the play is score the algae. You just gotta. I think it's gonna become
Yeah.
so crucial. I think so. Look, we saw we're gonna have full reefs. You know, when we get to the provincial championship, and that's the goal of these teams, right? You know, everyone's looking ahead to provincials. Like even worlds sometimes is not where the focus is because some teams are like, I don't know if we're gonna go to worlds or whatever. Provincials is the focus. We're gonna have full reefs, folks. We haven't seen Team Dave play yet. We haven't seen 2200 play yet. We haven't seen 2056 play yet. We haven't seen 4678 play yet. Like the level of play is so high in Ontario, but we haven't seen even more of those top. You get all those teams in one event, the reef's going to be full. So what's going to be the tiebreaker, folks? It's
The
algae, right?
Yeah.
Algae, yeah.
And climbs. We saw some deep climbs at Newmarket, not a lot. So, you know, when it comes to second round picks, you're going to want to be the team that can lock up a deep climb, right? I mean, the ideal second round pick this year is a team that can score algae, do a deep climb, and play defense, right? Because isn't that all the things that we just talked about? How you beat these amazing coral alliances seems to be the recipe. It's early. It's week 1. I don't want to make any proclamations about what's going to be happening in week 7 or at Worlds right now, but it just seems right there. I don't know. I'm excited though. Like, I agree that sometimes the game it's just hard to see everything that's happening, but we just like blew through 45 minutes here just talking strategy for this game, and there's a lot. So this is going to only get better. Folks, we would be remiss if we didn't recognize some of the winners at the Newmarket event. So congratulations to Team 4946, the Alpha Dogs from Bolton, 5409 Chargers from Oakville, and 10015 Bubbles from Aurora on winning the event. Our finalists, 4152 Hoya Robotics from Huntsville, 4476 The Waffles from Kingston, and 9580 Grizzly Gears from Barrie. Dean's List. We've got our first 2 folks advancing to provincials. Zoe G from 7480 and Maya M for 5409. Engineering Inspiration. I want to give a huge shout out here. Congratulations to Team 3739 Oakbotics from London on winning the Engineering Inspiration Award. They have been doing a lot of great stuff in the London community, and so cool to see them recognized for that. That's amazing. And then the Impact Award, folks. Team 1305, Ice Cube from North Bay. They have been winning Impact/Chairman's Awards since 2005. They have probably won, I think they might have won the most ever in the world because a lot of teams who've been winning them get into the Hall of Fame eventually. And it's super cool to see them recognize they had a challenging year, and they continue to do amazing things, and they do so much in the North. Brandon, you've been to the North Bay event before, right?
I haven't.
Oh, you
My
haven't?
team has.
Team has.
I
Okay.
haven't. No.
Okay. Well, 1305's footprints, handprints, all the prints are all in the snow up there. So that's really cool. So congratulations to them. Before we go, we have a question in chat. How will we see auto change over the weeks? I mean, we'll start to see 3 teams doing things in auto. I think that's a big one. Like in the playoffs in Newmarket, we only saw 2, but we saw a few 3 coral autos. Most, I think we'll see 4 at some point. It's just a matter of time. I know we've seen 4 globally. We haven't seen it in Ontario yet. Well, I've seen teams do 4 in practice in our videos, but not in a match. They're getting 4. I think coordination will be hard. Maybe we see some algae stuff happening, getting stuff into the barge early. I don't know. What do you think, Brandon or Shimon?
I think it's going to stay mainly coral, just from what we've seen with the points differences. I don't
Absolutely.
know
It's more valuable
how
to do coral.
realistic. I don't know how realistic it is to do algae. With that being said, when we start to see 3 teams, it just doesn't feel like there's going to be space on the reef to be 3 people, as well as especially at the stations. I think
At the
that's the main
station
one.
is the issue. It's like putting 2 robots into the same station in auto. It seems like a recipe for disaster unless it's well coordinated. Now, you have the April tag. and so you could tell, use the April tag to make sure, like, line me up left and line them up right or whatever. A little bit risky. So that's why I was thinking like maybe someone will, but like with the algae, maybe you just hold on to it because you don't want to, so like maybe it's do one coral, grab an algae, and then because you don't get any extra points for doing the algae in auto. So, but just having it.
I think even still though, doing the algae, I think it may be almost riskier than doing 3 bots on coral because you have to get in their way almost to try and grab that algae off off the reef.
Yep.
So if your cycle times aren't lined up exactly and you try and grab the algae while they're trying to score the coral,
Yeah,
it could
yeah,
mess
yeah.
up both.
You definitely don't want yeah, really good point, Brandon, because there's nothing if it's bad when two teams bump each other into the loading station, but if you bumped into someone when their elevator's all the way up, for robots that are designed not to be touched there because they know it's a protected zone, yeah, the last thing, there's nothing worse than seeing our partner get tipped in auto. It's just like, oh my goodness, what do we have to do? And there's nothing actually, sorry, there's something worse than seeing your partner get tipped in auto. It's you being the one who gets tipped in auto because you have no control at that point. All right, folks, this was a great discussion. Thank you so much, Brandon and Shivan, for being here. This was absolutely fabulous. We are back next week for a recap of the Centennial College and Niagara College events. We'll have 2 more youth council members. We'll have Emily Forrester, who will be at Niagara, telling us everything that happened at Niagara. I will be giving updates from Centennial College, and it's going to be good. So everyone, stay safe out there. Practice your gracious professionalism. Good luck at your events. Shivan, good luck in Niagara, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kill
I'm really
it
looking
out there.
forward to it.
Kill it out there. And you'll find me eating a Jamaican patty at Centennial. They have the best Jamaican patties there. I'm so pumped. I'm gonna be there for 4 days, so I'm thinking like 12 Jamaican patties at least. We'll update. We'll see how many I end up hitting on that. But thanks so much, folks. This was a great show. We will be back next week. Thanks to our viewers. Thanks to everyone in chat, and see you in a little bit. Good luck this weekend, everyone. Bye bye.